Members, now I have just been informed that we no longer need to shut down our system in order to reboot it. So hopefully things will go smoothly. Before I'm going to take item 12, the call-on item. And then we will go on to the notices of motion, but I just want to take a gauge from yourselves regarding a break. I know we had a 10-15 minute break earlier, so should we just ploy on? I'm up for just going on, and would everybody be of the same opinion? Okay, thank you. So are we okay? Yeah, Councillor Harkin? Yeah. So do we get a report first, or
Get a report first.
we'll get the report first, and then I'll bring you in.
So, members, it's just in relation to call-in of Council item C33123, which was a proposal that the Council, in recognition of tireless campaigning of John McCourt for the survivors of institutional abuse and his many years of peace and reconciliation work, would confer the honour of the Freedom of City and District to Mr John McCourt. Proposal was passed, 30 votes for, no votes against and 6 abstentions. Subsequently, a call-in was received, members, and a copy of the call-in is in your papers at page 115 on my papers. Members, as you know, call-ins are dealt with under Council Order Standing Order 2021. Various procedural requirements in respect of the call-in under the standing order were met. Because it's a call-in of a council decision, the relevant standing order is currently Standing Order 21.4. Under that standing order, the members who submitted the call-in shall be invited to address the meeting, and they will also have voting rights. Under Standing Order 21.45, the options which are available to the Council following consideration of this decision again are either to refer the matter for further consideration by committee, if the subject matter of the decision falls within the remit of the committee, or to support the decision or to overturn the decision, members.
Okay, and now I'm going to bring on Councillor Harkin.
Thank you for the report, and thank you, Mayor, for letting me in.
Sorry.
It's supposed to be and speak first and then response afterwards. Sorry if that wasn't.
Apologies, Councillor Harkin. It has to be the people who brought the call on who speak first, and then members thereafter. So can I just ask those who brought, so Alderman McMorris?
Thank you, Mayor. And I know it was Alderman Guy that sent a call on forward, but we did sign it. And I just reiterate the comments that I've made at the time when it was discussed at Council, that basically we felt that there wasn't, the proper process wasn't, like, I don't understand basically what the proper process was or didn't at that time, but I just felt that, you know, it should have went under like a working group or some kind of committee for discussion before it came to full council. It just kind of like came upon us. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't any cross-party kind of agreement on it when it was brought forward. So we just felt that we would like to have seen it when done to like a working group or further discussion, so we can basically make an informed decision basically on it. I also said at the time that this wasn't nothing personal about John McCourt or anybody else who whose name may or will be in the future put forward. It was just more or less the opportunity to discuss it and basically look into it more before we made that decision on it.
Okay. You okay? Okay. Just want to ask, is there any others who signed the call on who want to speak at this time? I'll give you an email at the gallery yourself. Are you okay? Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that I concur with Alderman McMorris's comments.
Okay. Thank you.
I just want to say I concur with
Okay.
Alderman McMorris as well.
Any other comments from those that signed the call-on? No. Right, I'm going to bring in now Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I just want to propose that we accept recommendation 5.1.2 and accept the original motion that we agreed.
Okay. Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor.
I'll second it.
Right. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's extremely unfortunate that we're discussing once again the warden of the Freedom of the City on the Drama Court, and he's not actually here to receive it. I think it's we should not, at this point, in my opinion, be where we are today discussing this call-on. I find it incredibly hard to understand and to get my head around how people can agree with a process for one person and disagree with the same process about another person and then say that it's not about the person. It just doesn't add up for me. We are content with the decision that we made when this was originally discussed, and we will be supporting that as we go forward here today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McGillney.
Mayor, just to state that we are supporting our original position in terms of the council meeting where this was originally proposed. And we think that decision should be honoured on the basis that, as far as we're concerned, the process that is currently in place was followed. If that process is being reviewed or there's changes being made to it, then that's that case for the future. But as far as we're concerned, the process that is in place currently was followed, so there's no reason why it shouldn't go ahead.
Okay, Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't be able to take part in the vote because I wasn't here at the beginning of the discussion. But at the time of the original proposal, members will remember that I queried the validity of the process that was being undertaken by Councillor Harkin at the time. I felt that really we should be looking at 5.1.1. And if I were able to vote, that's what I would be voting on. But as I say, regrettably, because I had an important telephone to take, I wasn't here during the debate, so I will have to abstain. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? No. Well, given that there is a difference of opinion, I'm going to ask John to run through the vote, please. Thank you.
Alderman Breslin.
Against.
Alderman Cook.
Against.
Alderman Hussey.
Abstain.
Alderman Carrigan.
Against, John.
Alderman McMorris.
Against.
Alderman Middleton.
Against.
Councillor Jason Barr.
Or.
Councillor Raymond Barr. Councillor Raymond Barr. Councillor Boggs. Councillor Boyle. Councillor Cusick.
Or.
Councillor Deeney. Councillor Devine. Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Alex Duffy. Councillor Sandra Duffy. Councillor Farrell.
Or.
Councillor Fleming. Councillor Gallagher.
Or.
Councillor Harkin.
Or.
Councillor Hart. Councillor Heaney. Councillor Hutton. Councillor Jackson. Councillor Leonard.
Bucklish for.
Councillor Logue.
Ta.
Councillor McDade. Councillor McGinley. Councillor McGowan. Councillor McHugh. Councillor Mooney. Councillor Murphy. Councillor Norris.
Abstain, I was outside.
Councillor O'Farrell.
Bucklish for.
Councillor Riley.
Or.
Councillor Tierney. Councillor Nealis. Thank you, members. Mayor, I have recorded 30 for, 5 against, and 2 abstentions, so the proposal passes.
Right. Thank you. We're going to move on now to the notices of motion, and first is Councillor Raymond Barr.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Harrigan is going to second the motion.
Have a second.
Take the motion as read. This council will be very familiar with the case of Noah Donaghy, given that there's been previous motions passed in support of the Donaghy family at this council. I feel one of the first issues any new chief constable must attend to is the case of Noah, whose naked, lifeless body was found in a storm drain in Belfast in June 2020. The case has been surrounded by controversy, mainly because of the public outcry over what has been termed an inadequate investigation into Noah's disappearance and death. Earlier this year, a crowdfunding appeal raised over £180,000 to allow investigative journalist Donald McIntyre to enlist the help of experts to carry out an independent investigation and also to complete a documentary on the case. Many people, myself included, along with Noah's mum, Fiona, feel that there was an unwillingness for whatever reason on the part of the PSNI to investigate the case properly, with the police announcing no foul play even before a post-mortem was carried out, and the most basic of policing practices not being carried out. The introduction of public interest community certificates only served to heighten speculation that transparency and truth were going to be victims of this non-investigation. The previous chief constable's tenure was riddled with controversy, resulting in a lack of confidence in the PSNI and indeed the policing board. An opportunity now presents itself to right some wrongs of the past, beginning with Noah's case and giving Noah's mum, Fiona, and her family the answers she deserves. Thank you.
Councillor Tierney.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And thanks to Councillor Barr for bringing this motion before us today. I think it's timely. I think it's extremely unfortunate that the Donaghy family have to have a notice of motion brought to council or councils across the north to find out what happened to their young child. But I think in reading the motion, what it's doing is it's ensuring that when a new chief constable comes into position, that the Noah Donaghy case will be raised directly with him by this council, and we'll make sure that it's on his, hopefully on that person's to-do list, and making sure that whatever needs to be done to get the answers that the Donaghy family need and deserve is done, and it's done in a timely manner. We have no issue supporting this motion. We've done similar in other councils across the north, and we will continue to support the Donaghy family in whatever way we can to ensure that they get the answers that they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, look, I think it's important our council continues to send its solidarity to the Donaghy family. The denial of transparency, the denial of justice around this is unacceptable. I also want to commend the efforts of Councillor Barr for bringing this here today so that this issue doesn't disappear. There's a lot of reasons right now for people to have a lack of confidence in the police, and unfortunately, from the very beginning of the death of Noah Donaghy, this is one of the reasons why people are frustrated at the police and don't have confidence. I think we as a council have to make sure that they're not going to hide away in terms of their work around this, and that we're going to demand transparency, accountability, and as much justice for the Donaghy family as possible.
Thank you. Councillor Hart.
Thank you. I would like to concur with what Councillor Barr has said and other councillors here today regarding the tragic death of Noah Donaghy, and the Sinn Féin council team fully support the motion here today. The family of Noah deserve truth and transparency, and the incoming Chief Constable should relook at the whole investigation into his tragic death. Thank you.
Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor. And while I can understand the sentiments of Councillor Barr's proposal, I don't think that I could agree with him. And As we all know in this chamber, since this awful tragedy happened, there has been many discrepancies and anomalies with this investigation. And I don't believe that any incoming chief constable who's going to be appointed will have any proper investigation into those discrepancies and anomalies. I think that whoever gets this job, they'll only get this job if they're a safe pair of hands for the status quo. And I don't think that the Donoghue family, and I send them solidarities, that they will get any answers from any internal investigation. It is clear by the campaign that has been undertaken that the only conclusion and the only answers that we will get will come from a full, independent investigation. And I appreciate Councillor Barrett bringing it to ensure that it stays in the public domain. But we'll not get it, or we'll not get no answers from any new chief constable. Thank you.
Councillor Donnelly.
I'm a good chair. In the same vein as Councillor Gallagher, I don't think that, we can have any confidence on this discredited force. They look into this. If we wouldn't have the Donald McIntyres of the world if these people were doing their job. In fact, not only are they not doing their job, I believe they're covering it up. And that's a widely held view. For me, whilst I understand Councillor Barr, as Councillor Gallagher says, the spirit of it, and the Donoghue family deserve justice. They're not getting it from what passes here as a police force. Whoever takes over the helm of this will be controlled and will be told what to do and will be told what to say, and we will get a letter back from these people, and it'll be a bog standard letter which will be absolutely meaningless. This is the same force that's covering up and preventing and hindering inquests. They haven't changed, and unfortunately the Donoghue family will not get any closure from what passes as a police force here. It can only be, it has to be an independent external inquiry. Well, only then will they hopefully get the answers and the justice that they're looking for. Thank you.
Okay. No more comments.
Mayor, sorry,
Oh.
Alderman Kerrigan, I'm in the chat box. Sorry about that, Mayor.
Okay, Alderman Kerrigan, and we have Alderman Hussey too, but go ahead now, Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for allowing me in, and I do thank Councillor Barr for bringing the motion. Again, it's devastating for the Donoghue family what happened to Noah, and I know the mother will be desperate to get answered, as any mother would be. So therefore, we have no issue in supporting the motion at this stage. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Okay, Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. And like most speakers, I think the thoughts have to be with the family as they continue to seek answers. I note that it's a review into the PSNI investigation, and I query as to why it's the incoming chief constable as opposed to the police ombudsperson. I don't know, maybe somebody can answer that in response to the proposal. And I find it disappointing that there are two members in this chamber who have an incoming chief constable's card marked before he's even stepped in the door. Give him no chance, or her no chance whatsoever. I find that extremely disappointing. That's for by the point. Thank you, Mayor.
No. Right. Okay, look, can I just ask for a show of hands maybe of who supports this motion? I know there's a few that. All right, and 2 abstentions. Should that be recorded? Okay. Just ask yourself, Freeman, now to sum up.
Just answer the Alderman Hussey's question. I personally asked the Ombudsman previously to conduct an oral investigation, and it fell on deaf ears. I feel that a new chief constable coming in here, the onus is on him to conduct an investigation into the investigation of the case. I agree with Councillors Donnelly and Gallagher that an independent investigation is the way forward. I've called for that before too, but I also feel at this minute in time that the new chief constable has to be asked the question. Just like to thank all those who supported the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. We'll now move on to Councillor Declan Norris.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take the motion as being read.
I second it, Mayor.
Thank you.
Everybody read. I would like to table this motion on behalf of all the dog owners in Derry and Strabane Council area. As a dog owner myself to a Springer Spaniel called Doris Norris, I believe we have fantastic pathways, greenways and parks to walk our dogs. Although we are very limited to where we can let your dog off a lead. The council rules state dogs are required to be kept on a lead when being walked along all shared use pathways in our council parks, but can be let off the lead when dog owners are not on the path. It should be noted that the dogs must be kept under control at all times, i.e. a dog must be obedient and respond to the dog walker's command. I personally choose very carefully where I can let Doris off a lead, because no matter how well trained a dog is, you just don't know if they'll run off. I have also a lot of friends who are not dog lovers. Some are totally frightened of dogs, and seeing a dog off a lead when they're it just totally scares them. Dog owners believe an exercise area would allow them to let their dog off a lead safely without worry or concern that they could run off. Also, as a final point, there has been studies done that show dog exercise areas have been attributed to physical health of dogs and also physical health and mental health of dog owners. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Duffy.
Good Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Norris for bringing this motion forward. We're in support of your motion. I have a dog owner myself, of a wee Cocker Spaniel called Evie, and she's prettier than your dog. I know it can be difficult when you're out walking your dog, and it is when you want to follow the rules and you want to be a responsible dog owner and stuff. And what we are lacking in this council area is somewhere where we can go and walk our dogs. And then taking into consideration people who don't like dogs and you're on a public park and stuff like that. No, thank you for your motion, and we'll be supporting it.
I have to apologise to Alderman Cook. I had your name down in the list, and just apologies. So are we going to be starting maybe a beauty pageant for dogs? I don't know. But Alderman Cook.
Thanks, Mayor, for letting me in. Well, I'll just start off and say I have 2 Labradoodles called Louie and Jess. So I'm a dog owner myself, but thanks very much to Councillor Norris for this motion. So as I say, I'm a dog owner myself. I firmly believe that there should be dog-friendly spaces for them to be able to run freely. Off-lead spaces for dogs has many benefits. They're good for socialisation, which can build the dog's confidence, calms fear and anxiety, improves their overall physical and mental health, and simply allows them to let off built-up energy. And this can have similar, if not the same, benefits for their owners as well. I know our party colleague, Alderman McClintock, had previously put forward a motion similar to this one, which was passed unanimously for a dog-free run space in Drumahole Walking Park. So we still remain fully supportive of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's Councillor Donnelly and then Councillor Cusick.
I'm good chair. As a proud owner of a jug called Sally, who and they reckon that dogs look like their owners, and she's very, she's she's a
button for Brian Tierney.
she's a bit she's a bit broad, let's just say. But no, look, walking dogs can be a complex issue, and there's nothing that she loves better than be let off the lead, and she's very small height wise. But there is other walkers that, you know, that sometimes, and she can be as disobedient as me too sometimes, but she will run towards them, assuming, you know, and our dog owners can get also very nervous because their dog may, you know, may be afraid or whatever. But I think we do, I would like to thank Councillor Norris for bringing this. We do need an area where, you know, people can let their dogs off and run about. It might be a bit, you know, different personalities of dogs, and that it might be a bit. I'm not sure how it would work, but I'm glad that the motion has been brought, and I would like to see it be enacted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cusack and then Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. And I was a very proud dog owner of a Doberman called Raoul up until March of this year. He was 15 years of age. So know how much they can bring to somebody's life, how they can enrich people's lives. This issue came up a few years ago, and I brought it to one of the council officers, and I have to admit it was received with more negativity than positivity. So I'm glad to see it come up again, because while as a dog owner, you know your dog, you know what it's like, you know its behaviours. I hope everybody would. As a responsible dog owner, you should know that. We have to be cognizant of people out there who are nervous and anxious of dogs, no matter what size they are, what breed they are. And I've encountered many people like that. My lad would always been very careful about, you know, his behaviour around others. We can't predict that, no matter, as I said, whatever breed or what size it is. Also, our parks. A lot of people don't realise, or council-owned parks I'm talking about, what's permitted and what's not permitted. And there will be people out there who really won't care about how other people feel as long as they can do what they want to do. And also, there's a lot of ignorance as to where you can have your dog off lead and where you can't. So this would be a perfect solution for people that want to have their dogs run free, get them the exercise they need, which also negates aggression, behaviour, all sorts of dog problems. When they get enough exercise and they get outside exercise, that's a very positive thing. But I would ask that we look for a suitable site which is accessible to people throughout the city, because you can say, yeah, there's a perfect site, it's council land, we can fence that off, but then you have to think about, right, well, what about people on this side of the river, this side of the river, how do they get to it? Maybe scope out a couple of sites so, you know, that there's accessibility, because there'll be people who may not have transport. How do they get to that site if it's a long distance away from where they live? So there's a lot to be, you know, thrashed out about this, but it's a very positive motion. I do hope that this time there's more positivity coming from council officers, and I thank my colleague Declan for bringing it to the chamber.
Okay, Alderman Hussey and then Councillor Gallagher.
On behalf of Milo and his friends, can I thank you for your motion? Your Doris doesn't know a poodle because hers is a cockapoo. The whole point, you know, I'm fortunate. I live in the country, and you're out walking the dog. You'll come across an empty field. You can go in, and you know the dog's under control, but at the same time, Milo loves to just be the buck agent now and again and out around the field or whatever. I suppose, as Gary said, their dogs can be like their owners now and again, you know. I see this as a motion, an urban motion, more so than a rural motion, whereby dog owners in the country do have that more flexibility. But I can certainly appreciate the difficulties of exercising a dog properly in urban areas, and congratulate the councillor on bringing the motion and support the motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, and I do see on the proposal that it is in the plural, but when I heard some councillors speak that we might pick two in the city, I was thinking to myself, we don't exercise dogs in Strabane. Not that I don't own one, but I think we do. But but it also and it begs the question, and we have debated in this chamber on many occasions around dogfighting and the issues of dogfighting, and I don't think that it should be allowed to escape within this debate and conversation, because it is a very important issue for a lot of people. And we also have debated in this chamber around issues of trying to resolve that. And we did have a potential solution around DNA. And that if council was moving forward with exercise areas, one of the great potentials of having that was that people would be allowed within the exercise area if they had their dog DNA'd. And then there was the potential of absolutely eradicating dogfighting. And I think the more that we would introduce this thought process, the more the plague of dogfighting would be taken off our streets. So I just thought that should be included in this conversation. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. No more comments. I'm just going to go back to Councillor Norris for summing up.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks everybody. Like, it was very evident there how many dog owners are in this chamber, and I think the figure's something like 90,000 dog owners in the district area. It's something as big as that, you know. And the answer, Councillor Gallagher's, my proposal is for the whole council area, you know, like one in Strabane, one on the water side, one on Derry side, and that could be open. That's why I've left the Explore terminology in there to look at all the possibilities, you know, and maybe not just one or two, you know, one or so, it could be a few. I'm not talking about a big fenced off area. I'm talking about it like a wooden fence on a green that's already there and maintained anyway. So I don't think the cost issue is that big, but I'd like to thank everybody for their support.
Okay, well, that sounds as if it's unanimous, so we'll just move on to the next motion, and that's Councillor Gallagher.
I'll just take it as read.
Have we a seconder? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, could I firstly start off by commending Council for the works that was undertaken in Melbourne Arena under stage one. We had many debates beforehand around this capital works, but today we see there's a great stand in place, turnstiles in place, change room in place, car parking in place. At the time, there were some issues that needed resolved with the local residents, and thankfully, to my knowledge, all that has been resolved. So when we look at Melbourne Arena, we see it has the potential to be a great facility and asset for this council. At the very beginning, when we were doing this capital planning, there was an inclusion with a net of floodlighting, and unfortunately, that was dropped at the time, and that at some stage we were hoping for a stage two, and that would include the floodlighting. Where we find ourselves and currently today is we have many users of this site, and those users require floodlighting. We have one of the best ladies football teams in the north, St. Swifts. They beat everybody in front of them. They have players who have the potential of signing professional contracts, but unfortunately, they'll not get playing at the highest level that they possibly can. This site does not receive floodlighting, and we will see this possible opportunities for these young people going to one side. And as Strabane is well known, we're always the last to get to the party. We need to put Strabane to the front. We need to bring forward plans to ensure the completion of this site in Melbourne Arena so that all the users can play at the potential, the highest possible potential that they can. And we have one, Science Swifts, that's currently doing it, but won't happen unless this is introduced. So I would ask the chamber today to support this proposal and to get this completed as soon as we possibly can. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Boggs.
Margaret Mayor, and thank you very much to Councillor Gallagher for bringing the motion forward. And I concur with a lot of what he has said. Obviously, at the time, whenever that stand and turnstiles and floodlights would have been discussed, I wouldn't have been a member of council. But I do know that my predecessor, Michaela Boyle, brought a motion forward at the start of 2022, calling for the very same thing that we're calling for now. I met recently with clubs who want to see the floodlights in place, and therefore Sinn Féin will be happy to support the motion that Councillor Gallagher is bringing forward. The development of the whole Melvin complex, that's including the sports hall, the new boxing club, and now what we're calling for again for floodlights on the arena pitch is imperative to ensure that we're making sure that we're fulfilling the needs of the sporting clubs who are looking to use it. But definitely happy to support the motion on behalf of Sinn Féin and thank Councillor Gallagher again for bringing it forward.
Okay. Councillor Jason Barr first and then Raymond Barr.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Gallagher for bringing forward this motion today. And we in the SDLP are more than happy to support it. And as he rightly says, for a great facility that is, it's just unfortunate that during the winter season, that is unsuitable after there's a 5 p.m. That can't be used. So it would be great to see this upgrade happen so that the likes of Science Swifts and Strabane Athletic and other potential users can use this arena to its full potential right throughout the year, no matter the season. So as I say, more than happy to support, and we look forward to any reports coming forward to see what the costings are such and other things in place for us to support. So as I say, happy to support at the SDLP and happy to support Councillor Gallagher's proposal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Raymond Barr.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Gallagher, for bringing this motion. As Councillor Gallagher alluded to there, Science Swifts ladies need floodlights to play the highest level. Strabane Athletic are in the same position as they endeavour to bring senior football to Strabane. Well, we see the efforts being made to bring the Bandwell up to standard to allow Derry to compete at the highest level, and rightly so. We would like to see the same efforts spent on Strabane. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll be supporting the motion. But I would remind Councillor Gallagher, Science Swifts do play at the highest level. In Northern Ireland, they play in the Premier Women's League and are doing extremely well. As well as Science Swifts, of course, there is, and Councillor Barr, I think, has mentioned that there is the development and progression that's needed for Strabane Athletic. Because if they move into the championship level, then they will require certain facilities, and lights is certainly one of those. Also, with regard to Science Swifts, there are pitches within the council area, not council pitches, but there are pitches I know that Science Swifts use for games. One in Castleberg, indeed, that they use. That not taking away from the proposal that the Stage 2 upgrade of Melvin is needed. And I suppose at the same time, I would remind Councillor Gallagher that Science Swifts is Science Mills. So, it might be more logical to provide proper facilities for the people of Science Mills, that Science Swifts and the men's team of Science there could also have their facilities in their own location at their community. Thank you, Mayor.
Sorry, I'm not going anywhere. I think it was a walkout. No, we've no more speakers.
Mayor,
No,
Alderman
sorry,
Kerrigan here.
sorry, who was that? Alderman Kerrigan?
I'm on the chat box. Sorry, Mayor.
Sorry, I keep missing you today. Go ahead.
You're all right. No, Mayor, hi. In regards to Councillor Gallagher's motion, I see that, and again, I do see his point there in regards to the motion, and again, the upgrade is required. I'm just seeking clarification here, maybe from officers or from Councillor Gallagher, in regards to this, the installation of the floodlights here and getting plans and costings and funding secured and that regard. Is this to prioritise this to effectively leapfrog other projects that are in the pipeline, or what way would it be treated? You know, is this something that's going to be stepped forward and pulled forward ahead of other projects that the council are seeking to fund, or is this something that's, you know, is it already in the pipeline here to be looked at? I know it's something that, as Councillor Gallagher's raised, that should have been done with the initial stand and that was being looked at. But is this a motion more to prioritise this and bring it forward at the expense of another project? As where I'm just seeking that clarification, just so that I know what way we can stand on this, because I don't want to. Yes, I support his view in that it's required. And again, I support comments from Alderman Hussey in regards into the Derg DA. You know, Science Trust are a team from the Derg DA and Cyan Mills, and any of the councillors representing the Derg DA will know the push in Cyan Mills in particular to have pitches in their own settlement and facilities there. I know that's for another day, but I'm just trying to get clarification. Is this at the expense of another project, or has this just been brought in alongside? Because there's a list, every councillor has a list of projects in their own DEA that require funding, and we want council to assist and to try to seek funding for and to prioritise. So just that clarification. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Okay, and I'm going to pass over to Councillor Gallagher. You can clarify that point.
I can clarify it. Right, this is not leapfrogging any project. This project was designed as one, and it run into some difficulties. And at the time, in order to meet other user groups' needs, the floodlights was put as stage 2. And this council has a priority of fulfilling the whole plan. And that's all I'm saying, that this proposal is to prioritise the completion of the capital works of a council asset, not anybody else's asset, of a council's asset that has multiple user groups. It's not leapfrogging no others or at the expense of no others. It's about making sure that this is completed, and that's what it's asking for, a time frame for completion, how much it is, how much it's going to cost, how much money have we got set aside, and we do have money set aside. And we need to say, if council gets access to other further monies, which I think there will be in the near future, will be accessing some capital money, that this is where it should be going. Because, and as Councillor Hussey says, they do play in it, but they're in danger of getting demoted solely because there's no floodlights. A user group, and there are multiple user groups in this council asset. So let's complete the council asset.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, Mayor. And I suppose, just from my own point of view, you know, coming from Irish Street, we also had a master plan on Irish Street. And, you know, we're basically looking for phase 3. So whilst I understand it was an overall project, you know, I have to highlight the fact that Rossdowney Park has been sitting derelict for years, which has no play provision or no quality at all for any of the children in the area. And, you know, whilst I understand that the floodlights is needed, do you know what I mean? There is other projects out there that really, really needs the investment from council. This is a council park. It's been lying derelict. The play equipment was removed several years ago. No consultation with the community. And I'm not trying to say that this is a bigger, better thing. Do you know what I mean? And I understand equally that the people within the place within Melbourne equally deserve. Do you know what I mean? But I just have to highlight the project and basically say there are other projects out there who are sitting at phase 2, phase 3. You know, but we're happy to sit back and get priority projects put in place like Rossdowney Park. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other comments, I'll ask Councillor Gallagher to sum up, please.
Thank you, and thank you all those who spoke in favour of this. And what I would say to those others that are looking for facilities That's up to them to bring their proposals and plans to this chamber, like I did. That's what it's about. And what I would say is, but we've well debated this on this particular site, and we've all recognised that this is a valuable council asset. It is. And there's also, and if we talk to the people of Strabane, we talk about levelling up. This is a good way for council to level up. It's as simple as it's there, it's been identified, the need has been identified. Let's do it. Thank you.
Okay, right, folks, if there's no dissenting voices, I'll take that motion as read. If not, can you please indicate? Abstain, right. Abstain. Abstain. Any other abstentions? Nope. Okay, that motion is passed. Move on now to Councillor Boggs.
Mayor, can I take the motion as read, please?
Okay. Oh, sorry, a seconder. Jason Barr, right, thank you.
Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Barr as well for seconding the motion. Mayor, the motion that is in front of us, I have spoken in this chamber before since being elected about the broad need to support special educational needs. But I think this motion is a very local example of how by us not supporting special educational needs properly at departmental level and at education authority level, this is what then we see on the ground. On the 30th of June, just before schools broke up for the summer, the Fairtrees Behavioural Support Unit staff in Strabane were told that from September there would be no fixed accommodation for them to operate out of, so that they would no longer have a unit for pupils to attend. Now, for those that don't know about the unit, that is basically where pupils are brought out of mainstream education for specialist support within a specialist unit, specialist trained staff, and I think that's important for us all to remember whenever we're talking about this. Without accommodation now at the minute, the teachers and the school leaders who have contacted myself and my colleague Militia McHugh MLA have heard of those pupils now having to get some kind of support, not specialist support by specialist trained unit staff, but on a mainstream setting. And that is clearly, I think, very evident for everybody here, not the same as getting that support in the unit that they once had. That's trying to find space within already pushed classrooms and school settings in the mainstream education setting. That's trying to find a library or a cloakroom or a store cupboard for these pupils who need the support to receive it from trained staff in mainstream settings. It's shocking. As a teacher, and also having listened to the teachers and school leaders who have contacted me, that's not how we should be supporting the young people who need the support. They're legally entitled to it, they're statemented for it, and they need to be supported by specialist units and specialist trained staff. Now, I have to commend the school leaders who are involved in the mainstream setting, the mainstream school teachers, and the specialist trained staff that are now working out of those classrooms that I've described, or not classrooms, cupboards and cloakrooms at times, for persisting to try and provide some support, while it may not be at the level that it once was, but some support to these pupils. But I think recently EA have responded to requests for information from myself, Militia McHugh and other elected representatives who have basically come back to say that high levels of demand on SEN resources, this is the effect of the high demand. So I would ask members to support the motion, but also to give consideration to the situation that is now being faced by staff of the unit, staff in our mainstream schools, our school leaders, but most importantly, the pupils who rely on the support that this unit provides. Skermogget.
Thank you. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. Just to commend support Councillor Boggs' motion. is, I'm assuming this is the educational and school unit that was beside Knockavo, is that correct? Yeah. I'm surprised to learn that. Former governor of in Knockavo, and I know the good work that was going on in that unit, and you know, it's a false economy that the Education Authority are undertaking. And I think, well, join with Councillor Boggs and everyone in this chamber should be asking the Education Authority to replace or seek alternative accommodation. As I say, I can't use any other word than a false economy. The consequences will be costly, not alone just in regards of the young people themselves, but in regard to society. Thank you, Chair, or Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I'd like to thank Councillor Boggs for bringing it forward. I be very happy to support this. And I think probably we should also be writing the Education Authority and saying, you know, like when they made these decisions, they knew it was going to have a detrimental impact on our young people. They knew that this service was providing a valuable service that allowed young children to stay in mainstream education. It supported them. It looked after their well-being and their safety, that they don't get full-time in a mainstream school. That because of these cutbacks that they knew was coming, that our children now are put at risk. And there are children who have made vast improvements through this service that are now come backwards. And parents are showing like the concern of investing in this service and now seeing it taken away and now seeing their children go backwards. And I think it's just totally wrong that someone in the Education Authority just decided to sign something off and have no forward planning on how our children was getting looked after in this process. So 100% supported.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jason Barr and then Councillor Raymond Barr.
You, Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Boggs for this motion. I've got an amendment. It's basically not an amendment, it's more like an add-on to the end that I've already sent through to Paula. It's just basically just what Councillor Gallagher just after said about the Education Authority. If that can be put up, Mayor, please.
I think it might still be an amendment. Would that be? Okay, Councillor Raymond Barr now, do you want to speak to both you want to speak to the amendment first, right? And then I'll bring you in, Jason.
Do I need a seconder for that, Mayor? No. Oh, that's great. Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, EODAS recently told the Education Authority that the primary school element of the programme must vacate their premises at Knockvoe School at very short notice without any consultation and, shockingly, poor communication. I'm extremely disappointed at the way this has been handled by the EA weeks before the new school term was due to begin. They have left vulnerable children and young people without this vital support, and that is important to them, and this has angered parents, teachers and the local community who know all about the important work that EODAS do in our community. The SDLP have worked with EODAS for a number of years and seen firsthand the impact on young people and the huge difference it makes to their lives and development. I understand the need to expand Knockvoe and have been working for many years along with the MLA for the SDLP in Strabane, Daniel McCrossan, to try and help EODAS find a modern purpose facility home within Strabane. This situation should never have reached the stage where the group and all the children who rely on it have been left with nowhere to turn. Myself and Daniel McCrossan have both contacted the EA and the Permanent Secretary at the Department of Education, urging them to make establishing a permanent home for the EODAS a top priority of theirs. Until the new base is established, we need a temporary solution so that we can protect those important services for families in Strabane, and we in the SDLP will continue to do all we can in making that case in the strongest possible terms until this matter is resolved. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Raymond, so it's to both the amendment and the motion you want to speak, yeah?
Thank you, Mayor. Speak to both. Very briefly, just I'd like to thank Councillor Boggs for bringing this motion. The situation in Strabane was dire before the service was withdrawn, and this withdrawal news obviously exacerbated that serious situation. So I was supporting the motion and the amendment.
Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Boggs for bringing this forward. We as a party recognise the value that these specialist services provide to our children, and we recognise the need for consistency for the children, and that's provided by these types of facilities. Not only does it impact the children, but also the family life of the families of these children, and also the mental health of the wider family. So thanks again for bringing the motion and the amendment. We will be supporting both. Thank you.
Any other comments on the amendment? So everybody happy with the amendment? Yes. We'll go over now to Councillor Boggs for summing up.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Barr for the amendment. Happy to support it, and also thanks to everybody else who spoke in support of the substantive motion as well. Just a couple of things that Alderman Hussey had raised about Knockvoe. I think this again puts spotlight back on the fact that we need to look at Knockvoe going forward again. It has reached capacity long ago, and that's the reason why we find ourselves in this situation with the behaviour unit, because they need every inch of space that they can get to be able to support the children that attend that school. Councillor Gallagher had made points there just on and around the fact that, you know, it's a step back for the pupils that are in mainstream school that got that special support. As a teacher, I recognise greatly the benefits of inclusion and integration for pupils who do require additional support, but who can thrive in the mainstream setting, and that's what this unit allows. It allows pupils to have time in mainstream and then some time away from the unit, and that's hugely important for the growth and the benefit of the young people who attend it. So I think just in relation then to how we move forward, definitely the public consultation is great to make sure that people are aware. But it again puts a huge spotlight on the fact that we're not funding our special educational needs services properly at EA level and at departmental level. And that's not going to change, as I've said before in this chamber, until such times as we have a fully functioning assembly and executive. We have an executive that has an education minister setting a proper budget, and the Tories stop stripping away every penny and pound that we have going into vital public services. But just to reiterate, none of this is going to change in the short term. But I would implore the EA to work on accommodation, and also implore on others to get back around the executive table to work for the benefit of everybody. Mayor.
That's great. Now, I think that's unanimous. Yeah. So we'll go on to the next motion, and that's Councillor Harkin.
Thanks, Mayor. Can I take the motion as read?
Have you a seconder, Councillor Harkin? Yes. Councillor Barry, right.
Look, I think the appearance of the toxic green algae bloom in Lough Neagh through the summer sent climate crisis shockwaves across the island and across the world. And I think it leaves us in no doubt that climate disaster is with us. The lough has been described as being dead or dying. The eel population seems to have disappeared. There's questions about the future of the fish stock there. And I think that people are looking for answers and they're looking for action on Lough Neagh. And as we know, Lough Neagh provides 40% of drinking water for people here in the north. And when you add that to the threat posed by the Maboy dump to our water and the general health of our rivers right across the north and across the island, we're in serious, serious trouble. And when you add Lough Neagh and the bloom there to what happened during the summer in terms of fires in Greece, fires in Hawaii, I mean, these are really the morbid symptoms of 21st century capitalism, where everything profit is put before planet and it's put before people. And that's what we're dealing with now. That's what this mess at Lough Neagh represents. And look, we know that Lough Neagh is owned by an aristocrat who doesn't care what happens there, but benefits from every form of extraction that goes on and lifts millions and millions of pounds every year. The Earl of Shaftesbury, and it's absolutely ridiculous that an aristocrat should be in charge and owning such an important place that's so important to providing life sources for us, but also is so important culturally and socially. So that needs the lock needs to be taken off the Earl as soon as possible and put into some form of public ownership. But it's not just the Earl that has benefited. I've spoken to a lot of environmental campaigners, and it's very, very clear that government is as much responsible for the crisis as Lough Neagh as the Earl. We've had decades of neglect. We have decades of a systematic refusal to regulate what goes on there. And we just look at like some of the government policies that have existed over the last decade, and they've contributed directly to what's happened there. Going for growth, the much celebrated agribusiness strategy has directly led to the poisoning of Lough Neagh, and nobody wanted to challenge it because it was great for profits. But now we see the consequences of going for growth. There were opportunities for the Stormont executive to do something about it, to take it into public ownership. These opportunities were missed over and over again, with the opportunity to stop destructive industrial sand dredging. And again, people looked the other way and decided at every point, at every opportunity, a decision was made to put profiteering ahead of protecting the lough. So here we are right now with this crisis on our doorstep and a more general crisis for our waterways right across the island. So what we want to propose is that our council lead on pulling together a meeting for all the councils in the north so we can actually hear from people who are experts in regulation and who have ideas about the best type of public ownership that we could have. Friends of the Earth,
Councillor,
the Environmental Justice Network.
Over your time, so if you would just finish off, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So look, I think that we need urgent action. I think that the business as usual needs to end. And I think our council, given our environmental and climate pledge, needs to take action on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McGinley.
Mayor, and I do have an amendment that I had sent through to Paula. If I can just get it on the screen, it's more of an addition, but I know that still counts as an amendment.
Okay.
Second that.
Thank you.
Seems to be.
Councillor McKelney, do you want to talk in the member?
All right, go ahead. Aye.
Yeah.
Perfect. Mayor, and we are in support of the entirety of Councillor Hirkin's motion, and we feel that this amendment is just the add date and to strengthen the motion. Our party has been very clear in terms of our position on Lough Neagh, and last week our MLAs Declan Kearney, along with our environment spokesperson Philip McGuigan, led a delegation of political and community activists from in and around the area around the loch to meet with senior officials at NIE and the inland fisheries in relation to this issue, and it was made clear that the entire ecosystem of the loch is in a serious ecological crisis. I don't think that's a secret at this stage. It has been repeatedly emphasised that an urgent multi-agency and interdepartmental led strategy is required to tackle this issue, which is the purpose of the amendment in bringing forward to call on NILGA to coordinate a task force immediately that includes all the respective agencies to establish a time-bound targeted strategy to address the ecological crisis at the loch. And this motion is being brought forward in a number of councils in the north at the minute. So we think that it strengthens the call for NILGA to establish that, that task force if this council also passes that. The amendment also calls on for the loch to be brought under public ownership, and we believe this would be to the benefit of all across the island. It is observed that in 2023 that the largest freshwater lake across these islands is in the ownership of a member of the English aristocracy, the Earl of Shaftesbury. And it's our view that the English aristocracy shouldn't be exploiting our natural resources for their own benefit. By bringing the loch under public ownership, it will allow for our natural resources to be managed in a sustainable way. Thanks.
Thank you. I have a number of speakers. So the next is Alderman Middleton. And you want to speak on both the amendment and
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'll cover the amendment as well. So it goes without saying that the situation at Lough Neagh is deeply concerning for residents throughout Northern Ireland. Lough Neagh is one of our most valuable resources, with 40% of our drinking water coming from it. The water needs to be both clean and safe to drink, and the site itself should be safe for persons using the site as well as our wildlife. We need to take action very quickly on Lough Neagh and not have some long drawn out legal process in an attempt to establish rights that currently don't even exist. We are supportive of a coordinated response, and I am aware that other councils have called for meetings as well. I would like to put on record that I believe very strongly that this issue should not become a political football. We need to see action and remediation, and on the basis that I think we need to talk more deeply on this, I would agree that maybe it does need to go to a working group. So in terms of the amendment, I personally think that there is more discussion that needs to happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Edwards. What's all right? Ah, Edwards. Look that out Right. Sorry, Councillor Minnie. Oh, you're getting a laugh anyway, so there you go.
Thanks, Mayor. Stephen speaking here. Thank you, Mayor. And I'd like to say thank you to Councillor Harden for bringing this motion. As we know, we will be supporting the amendment as well, but as we know, the awful situation that is unfolding before us at Loughney seems to be matched only by the inertia on this issue, largely caused by not having Stormont up and running with an executive who perhaps could try and take charge of the events that are unfolding to stop this resource from being further damaged. As you will be aware, Mayor, the SLP submitted a recall motion on this issue, but unfortunately this was not taken up, only I think except by Mr. Jerry Carroll from PBP. But Mayor, perhaps it is time to give some consideration to alternative governance measures. Clearly the current model does not provide enough protection to the loch. Mr. Harkin has raised the concept of a rights of nature based solution, which is not unfamiliar to this council, given his his colleague, Councillor Neil, brought a motion to this chamber several years ago on this actual issue. And I note the text of the motion in para 2, and we would support the view that rights of nature perspective could indeed be examined amongst other governance arrangements, which might provide for better outcomes in respect to this hugely important natural resource. The email sent out by Councillor Harkin on behalf of Queen's Academics outlining the current legal position and future alternatives based on public ownership and rights of nature models is a welcome document, which will undoubtedly inform the debate in this chamber at a future date when the representatives from Queen's School of Law and Friends of Earth can come and present to our council. However, Mayor, there is probably very little we can do as a council to reverse the effects that is happening in Loughney. But what we can certainly do is take the opportunity to inform ourselves of how future arrangements can be best implemented and to lobby on the loch's behalf to those whose duty it is to look after it. Thank you, Mayor. Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor Minnie. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to give Stephen a ring there, but going back, I suppose, to when it was first noticeable that the loch was in serious bother, probably the first indicator was the beginnings of the zebra mussel discoveries in the loch. And then we had the situation where dead stand extraction was put on a halt for a period of time. And perhaps at some stage, Councillor Harkin can remind us who the DAERA minister was at the time who missed the opportunity to begin to address the developing issue at Loughney. But I'll see if Councillor Harkin can clarify that. With regard to the amendment, I fully support the amendment. And believe actually that that amendment should replace the last paragraph of the original motion, but it's not worded that way. It's not to replace it. It's NILGA as the corporate body representing all councils should take this forward. I wouldn't see it as the responsibility of this council to be the lead organisation. It's more a acceptable province-wide body like NILGA with the expertise that they can bring in, etc. Thank you, Mayor. Support the amendment.
Okay, no more comments. Take it back to yourself.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks for everybody's comments and support the amendment as well. Thank you.
Sorry, I don't know where my head is today. I really don't. We have to vote an amendment. Sorry. So, is there any dissenting voices on the amendment? No? Right. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. That'll just look like a glitch on the video.
Done it again.
But thank you, everybody, for support and comments, and thank you, Councillor McGinley, for the amendment, which we fully support as well. Look, I think that the ecological crisis is becoming clearer and clearer every day, and the way that we're doing things has to change. I think that profiteering is at the heart of this crisis. Extraction is at the heart of this crisis. I think government failure and negligence. There's also more to it in that this was a coordinated plan. They actually refused to regulate Lough Neagh. And what's happened at Lough Neagh can be applied really everywhere, because this is the crisis that's all around us right now. So I don't think that we have the answers as a council. I think that if we're looking for new ways of doing things, we're going to have to hear other ideas. Public ownership, I think, is absolutely central, but there's different models of that. And one of those proposals includes the rights of nature framework, which I think we're all learning how that would work. But I think that is, it's a cutting edge proposal right now, and it would mean that the loch would be more protected and our waterways would be more protected, which will mean that we are more protected as well, because we rely on the water. If we don't have the water, we're not going to survive. So this is a big issue, and I do think it's something that our council, because of our climate pledge, should play a leading role in moving forward. We can't do it on our own, but we can certainly say to other councils that this is calling for drastic and unprecedented action. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And again, I don't hear any dissenting voices, so we'll...
Point of clarity, Mayor, I did ask if Councillor Harkin was aware who the DAERA Minister was at the time.
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, look, I am aware of who the previous DAERA Minister was, and I think there was a disappointing decision that we opposed around continued sand dredging. But to say that there's only one minister in the last couple of years is responsible for the crisis in Lough Neagh is absolutely wrong. I mean, this dates back decades, and there was our agricultural policy is to blame, our agribusiness policy is to blame, and there were opportunities in the past that put Lough Neagh into public ownership, and we've missed them, and we're now dealing with that crisis. So this is a failure of the executive, but also of all the statutory bodies that are supposed to regulate what happens at Lough Neagh.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, he is aware. So we'll move on now to the next motion, and that's Councillor Jackson.
Well, Mayor, can I take the motion as read? Seconder.
Second.
Okay, Mayor, this issue has been discussed at length at this committee, or in this council for. Yeah, apologies, it's bad enough listening to me once. But and this has been discussed at length at in this council. I suppose we see our public sector right across the north, Cumberland. We see it within our health system, within our education. We've had information in our packs today in relation to social housing providers that are facing challenges in relation to maintenance. There's a whole raft of issues that are facing our public sector at this minute in time, that are facing society as a whole, and we don't have a government. At the beginning of this meeting, we referred to a conference that was held in Belfast, a conference that was designed to bring investment into the north. I know that there was quite a lot of international investors that were keen to invest in this part of the world. But one of the main issue that was highlighted was political instability. We need to create jobs for our young people. We need to build a society that people have confidence in. And we're only going to do that with a functioning government. And I don't want to turn this into a political football, because I'm not portraying that the executive is the panacea, but what we do know is that there is a whole raft of talent that has been elected right across the political spectrum. That in my view, I've got confidence that they can listen to the views of our local area. They can help shape policies to support people through very challenging times, and they're being denied the opportunity to do so. Government only works if it's accountable and it's in touch with grassroots people. They're permanent secretaries. With all due respect, ministers that have been elected by people in England have no interest in here. They have no local knowledge of how this place works and how things could be done better. If we want our public sector to work, if we need government to work, and even us as local councils, if we want to achieve our ambitions, we need local evolved institutions working in tandem with ourselves. They maximise the potential that we have within our local council area. So we've heard in the past about barriers for parties working together, and what we're listening. We certainly are.
Time's up, so Councillor, you just finish up,
Okay.
please.
So what I'm saying now is in relation to where we're at, where the political situation is at the minute. It's essential that parties work together. We allow people the opportunity to represent their communities, represent their constituencies, and deliver for people. So I'm urging on everybody to work together to ensure that politics works in this part of the world.
Thank you. Anybody want to comment? I have no. Yep. Councillor McDade.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Jackson, for bringing the motion. I completely agree with everything you're saying. It's so important that we get our executive back up and running. The lack of the executive has led to just cut after cut after cut to every department, and it's having a devastating impact on everybody living here. Just obviously the most so to the most vulnerable in our society. Civil servants are having to make these decisions to cut the budgets and services, and these civil services shouldn't have to be taking these decisions. This is the role of the people we voted for and that are being paid to do this job. No one party should ever be given the ability to pull down the institutions. We all know that this isn't the first time it's happened. It's not the first time that we've been without a functioning executive, and that SDLP really want reform to see something change to stop one party being able to do this. We can't have one of the biggest parties pulling the country to a standstill every time they don't like the way things are going. But on this motion, I completely agree. I'm really happy to support it. The SDLP will support it. And I would urge the DUP to get back into the executive and get on with the job that they've been elected to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few amendments, if Paul could put them on the screen. This is
Oh, and send it up to the,
Come on. I know want to come on.
it's coming.
Right. Right, folks, the amendment's up on the screen there. If you just want to get a wee read.
It's just a matter of fun. Jeremy Coleman. We don't know. Yeah. But that's true. It's like that. If you said Carl.
Right, folks, has everybody had a chance to read over the amendments? Okay. Do you want to add another?
Thank you, Mayor. Look, we agree with the thrust of the original proposal from Councillor Jackson. People have a right to government here, and it's a disgrace that there isn't a government. And we believe that the DUP should end its veto on government. We also think that the British government don't really care that the DUP are refusing on the government, and they're now seizing this as an opportunity to do things to the north that they've been trying to do for the last 25 years, and that is destroy our public services to the point where we have no option but to greet and have more private business, and to bring in all sorts of things like water charges, increased costs for tuition, and the list goes on. So I think we have to do everything we can to push back. I think as a council, we've called on the Secretary of State not to implement budget cuts. In fact, there was this full council has ratified a call for an economic bailout for the north. But I think we also have to demand that permanent secretaries stop shrugging their shoulders and saying we have no option. They can refuse to put through these cuts. They should just say no. And they should refuse to carry out the consultation that the Secretary of State is demanding that they do. If they begin to do that, it reinforces and backs up the strike action that our public sector workers are taking. And in the last week, last week and a half, we've seen many groups of workers out on strike again. And unfortunately, they will have to go out again because there is still no response from the Secretary of State. So we think that this is a way we don't want to wait. I don't think we can afford to wait on what the Tories are doing. I think we have to maximise our resistance right now because what they're doing is attempting to break down further the fabric of our society. This is their opportunity to do it, and they're going to push through as many cuts and attacks as they can get away with. I don't think we should allow our permanent secretaries to say there's nothing we can do.
Thank you. Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Gallagher.
You Mayor, I'll speak on both. I'll not be supporting either of these. Like when we look back, I mean, we have to look back the last 20 years, and politics hasn't worked in this country whatsoever. When we talk and we see the manifestation of cuts today, they've been in place the last 20 years, have been implemented. And we've seen parties in here, we've seen them stand and protest no cuts, no cuts, no cuts. And that's when Stormont was in place. We've seen Fresh Start Agreement, St Andrews agreements, new deals, this deal, that deal, and every one of them brought cuts, implementing cuts. No bedroom tax. It's here, it's active, it's alive. Despite the parties in denial, it is impacting and people in Strabane, as we speak, who are on benefits and have to pay top-ups because of bedroom tax. So when we go back to saying making politics work in this part of the world, it's never worked. Never. And do you know the old saying, the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different outcome. We won't be having a different outcome with Stormont regains. And there might be something like near fresh deal in order to get the parties off the hook to implement cuts. When Stormont didn't implement them, the parties just threw it across to London and says, implement them cuts, and just stood back in denial. And that's what will happen again. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll speak on both the motion and the amendments. Most people will see the blatant hypocrisy of Sinn Féin bringing forward this motion. For 3 years, Sinn Féin held up the formation of an executive for narrow political self-interest. Michelle O'Neill walked out of the Health Minister position to seek to further Sinn Féin demands. For 3 years, there was no motions brought forward to this council that I'm aware of. So it's ironic that these people are speaking up today. Now that unionists have raised concerns on behalf of a significant section of our community, all of a sudden we have outrage from Sinn Féin. People see through this hypocrisy. Before the resignation of the First Minister in 2022, the Finance Minister Conor Murphy failed to get the support of any other party for his budget of cuts. We all want to see devolution restored, and the DUP are continuing to engage in discussions with the UK government to try to bring about the fair and sustainable conditions that are necessary to get the Assembly and Executive functioning. However, this can only happen when we have stable foundations and on a basis of cross-community support, and Northern Ireland's position within the United Kingdom is both respected and protected in law. The budgetary problems facing every government department are a real concern. However, those department budget problems won't magically disappear with an incoming executive. The NI Fiscal Council have highlighted that our funding model is unsustainable. The Barnett formula doesn't deliver sufficient resources to meet Northern Ireland's objective needs. If this motion is really focused on delivering better public services for the Council, should we be writing to the Treasury in support of the DUP's calls over recent months for a fundamental review of how we are funded and for a needs-based funded model to be put in place for Northern Ireland? In addition, if this motion is really about seeing the Assembly and Executive restored, then Council can write to the Government asking them to meet the commitments they have made going back to the New Decade, New Approach Agreement to fully restore Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom. Thank you.
Okay. I have Councillor Jackson, Councillor Donnelly, but I'm advised that given you're the proposer of the motion, you should be the lastly speak on the amendment. That's what I've been advised. Okay. So, Councillor Donnelly, and then back to yourself, Christopher.
Chair, I won't be supporting either the original motion or the amendment. Stormont will not be our saviour. When it talks about good governance and protecting public service, it's never been good governance. It's never protected public service. It's a dysfunctional sectarian system. It is a partitionist puppet parliament controlled by Westminster. It is part of the counter-democratic process. It is a violation of Irish sovereignty. It never has worked and it never can work. There can't be an internal solution in the 6 counties. Stormont is most definitely not the solution here. What we need in this country is a proper system of governance which will look after the affairs of the people of this entire island without interference from outsiders, which includes Westminster and Brussels. The people on this island should have a chance to elect a national government, and resurrecting failures that have never worked is counterproductive. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Hussey.
Thank you. It's really a point of information or clarity that I'm seeking. Am I right, and this would be to our chief executive or solicitor, am I right in presuming that permanent secretaries and civil servants have a legal duty to do their job, so to speak, and if it involves cuts, etc., and that motion, therefore, would be asking people to break the law? Is that correct?
Mayor, I think if the amendment goes through, first of all, it's the wording is calls, and traditionally this council, that's a verb that does not translate into a letter. But secondly, it's a matter for civil servants then to advise on the position that council has adopted.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand the nature of the intent of the amendment, but I do have concerns as to the implementation and the repercussions it could have for people who are doing their damnedest in a very strange situation that they find themselves in.
Okay, Christopher.
Mayor, excuse me, just before, if you don't mind, Councillor McDade's been trying to signal for quite some time, but no one at the top table seems to be looking this direction. So I know Councillor Jackson has to go last.
I've just been told that you should be last to speak on the amendment because you're the proposer. Now, I'll hand that over to Philip to clarify if
We just don't want to miss our opportunity. If that's the process, we just don't want to miss the opportunity to speak on the amendment.
Apologies, I didn't see you. Go ahead, Councillor McDade.
Just very briefly to say we would support the amendment, just if it anything to go towards stopping cuts and slowing cuts down. I don't know whether Alderman Hussey is right. If it is something that can't legally be done, fair enough, let them tell us that. But I think if we can do anything to reduce these cuts that will be having such an impact, then we'd be supporting it.
Councillor Jackson speaks last.
Councillor Harkin, I see you raised your hand again, but unfortunately I can't let you. And again,
Oh, okay, that's fine.
go ahead.
Yeah, calls on. I mean, it's a matter of interpretation, and we've had motions through the council where it's calls on and letters are written. So can we get clarification? Because what I mean is we write letters too. That's the aim or the intention. And that's what I'm saying is the intention now. So verbally, is that enough or do we need to change the language? Thanks.
Mayor, may I respond?
Yes.
Perhaps the member wishes to just change the verb to rights to, if that's the case. That's the intention. It's still alive. It's still being debated.
Well, I would like to amend the motion to rights to instead of calls on, if that's okay with the chamber. If I can get a seconder.
Okay. That she changed it.
Somebody just, did you line? If you ever any allowed her, she's.
Right.
I mean, I'm losing it, it's fine. So if you- anybody else,
No.
then Councillor Jackson. Nobody else.
Right. We're going to move this on again. I take it nobody else has any comments on the change of the verb? No. So Councillor Jackson.
There may be a follow-on point from that, given the amendment. There's whenever rights to all Stormont permanent secretaries and departments to refuse, it would to call on them to refuse. It just.
You're asking me.
As long as that can be earned out, we all know what we're asking here. So, but in relation to the amendment, and I'll reserve the right to sum up in other comments later. But in relation to the amendment, we're supportive of it. There's the former finance minister has called on the budget that's been applied here as a punishment budget, and that's exactly what it is. It's the British government punishing the public services here because of a political party. And that should be transpired right across, that we shouldn't be allowing our public services, the most vulnerable in our society, to be collateral damage between a spat between the DUP and the British government. It's completely unacceptable, and if there's anything that we can call on to ensure that the ramifications of that isn't felt by people who need services, then we should. So we're fully supportive of that. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Just going to, on the amendment, is there any dissenting voices? Yes. Would you please just indicate if you're right? Are you against or against? Online, anybody?
I'm against.
Against, Mayor. Alderman Kerrigan.
Oh, okay.
Just do a quick check on who's against.
We're just going to do a call here.
Wasn't a call, just a quick check on who's against.
Right.
So.
Breslin.
Yes.
Alderman Cook. Yes, please. Sorry, Mayor. Without going through the laborious list of everyone, I'm just doing a quick check on those members who are against. Alderman Breslin.
Yeah, against.
Against. Alderman Cook.
Against.
Alderman Hussey.
Abstain.
Alderman Kerrigan.
Against, John.
Alderman McCready, who's now on the call, I believe.
Abstain.
Alderman McMorris. Alderman Middleton.
Against, John?
Are other members for, or are there members abstaining? Yes. Okay, I'm going to just continue, Mayor, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Jason Barr. Sir Raymond Barr. Councillor Boggs. Councillor Boyle. Councillor Cusick. Councillor Deeney.
Tap.
Councillor Devine. Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Alex Duffy.
Tap.
Councillor Sandra Duffy. Councillor Farrell.
Or.
Councillor Fleming.
Tap.
Councillor Gallagher.
Against.
Councillor Harkin. Councillor Hart.
Tap.
Councillor Haney.
Tap.
Councillor Hutton. Councillor Jackson. Councillor Leonard.
Walklash for.
Councillor Logue.
Tap.
Councillor McDade. Councillor McGinley. Councillor McGowan. Councillor McHugh. Councillor Mooney. Councillor Murphy.
Tap.
Councillor Norris, sorry. Councillor O'Farrell.
Walklash, John. For.
Councillor Riley. Councillor Tierney. And Councillor Nevis.
Backlash for.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor, and that's 29 for, 7 against, and 2 abstentions. So the amendment passes.
Okay. I'm just going to go back to Christopher now to sum up.
Chair, Mayor, if that has become the substantive motion, I have a subsequent amendment, which I've handed in. Sorry, that amendment is replacing a line. I'll point it out on screen here.
Alderman, do you want to speak on the?
Thank you, Mayor. When talking about the motion at the very beginning, Councillor Jackson talked about all parties working together. And he's quite right. I fully agree with that. At the same time, the concerns that the Democratic Unionist Party have with regard to the protocol, the framework, are no different than the concerns that the Ulster Unionist Party have. There are differences in methodology of opposing that. Personally, I believe that you can't change something from the outside. The Windsor framework gives the opportunity of working within the Assembly to counter the wrongdoing, shall we say, of the protocol, etc. But at the same time, everybody needs to step back and look at their position. There are still issues that are issues that are concerned to the unionist population. They're not being listened to by government in Westminster. I think they've reached a stage where, as we know, and you know, those on the very far left of this back row will agree that the British government doesn't give two hoots about it. And they've just said, all right, you know, we'll just go on ahead here. But it's time for them to also consider the residents of this part of the United Kingdom. I think it's wrong to single out one party because there are more than one party. I'm not trying to let any party off the hook, as somebody suggested to me. What I am saying is let's be reasonable and work towards what we all want, as far as I'm concerned, namely the re-establishment of an executive and an assembly, well, with the exception of a couple. So, and that I move the motion. It hasn't been seconded, by the way.
True. So have we got a seconder?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a seconder online. Okay. Right. So we have an amendment. Is there anybody wants to speak on the amendment? Councillor McDade.
Thank you, Mayor. Just very briefly to say we wouldn't be supporting that amendment. Everyone else is trying to get back into the Assembly. There's a lot, every other party is coming out and asking for the Assembly to be reformed, and the DUP is the only one that aren't. So we would be happy to stick with Councillor Jackson's original motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Duffy.
Mayor, we have got into sort of the realms of a bit of silliness around this now. We won't be supporting the amendment. It is very clear that at this point in time, the DUP are the only party who are actively blocking the formation of an executive for reasons only known to themselves. I think that in terms of taking out the institutions of the Good Friday Agreement is also wrong. We will not be supporting this amendment. I think that the original motion spoke clearly and concisely to the issues that are out there. We have all been on picket lines over the last number of weeks with various people, most recently our health service, who are under severe pressure. We need an executive back up and running now to address the many, many issues that we're facing here. So we'll not be supporting that amendment.
Any other comments? No. Well, I think it's clear that that amendment is not going to pass. So I'm going to revert back now to the substantive motion. And Christopher.
Mayor. Mayor, can I have opportunity?
Go ahead, Keith.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Just an opportunity. I just wanted to speak just very briefly on the final motion just before it would be before Christopher gets an opportunity to wrap it up. Mayor, it won't come as any surprise that we won't be supporting it, and would have been more minded with Alderman Hussey's amendment. But major issue there, Mayor, is there are parties there that have supported the amendment were brought forward by Councillor Harkin, and it is a motion you'd expect from, or an amendment expect from Councillor Harkin. But there are parties here who will, presently and in a few months' time, be pushing hard and tight for us to live within our means, as we would be also to cut our cloth as we can do in our rich process. And yet, in the same token, we're pushing here that we're stopping, and there's parties here that are pushing here that the imposition of water charges, prescription charges, tuition hikes, and we're not for that either. But the situation is, there is a massive black hole in Stormont, and Stormont will not solve the problems that the country is in. The issue is that there's a massive funding shortfall, and if Stormont's up and running tomorrow, it won't be fixed. We need to lobby to get additional monies in. And the party, the DUP, has been doing that to lobby to get additional monies in from Westminster, because I don't see anyone getting it from anywhere else. I don't see anywhere no money's coming up out of Dublin or anywhere else towards us. So the money has to come from Westminster to try and bail out the institutions there. So the situation is that we have to push for that, and that's where the avenue we're going for. And the situation with this, that it's pushing here that we're refusing cuts and asking civil servants not to do their jobs there. I'm not content in that section of the motion, but it is the issue. We need to get additional money in. Stormont is not the answer. There has to be additional money in. There has to be additional budgets in there, because if Stormont's up and running tomorrow, and I will be very brief, who's going to make the difficult decisions about balancing the books? We do that annually in the council. But again, the parties here
Alderman,
that,
we have run over your time.
thank
If you
you
could
very much,
please
Mayor, for
finish up.
allowing me on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alderman McCready.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak on the substantive motion. I suppose the two things that jump out at me after listening to a relatively long debate on a very important point, and it's the two strands, I think, is both hypocrisy in one hand and then irony on the other. And I don't try to make that a comical point or levity or flippantly, but that's the reality in which we're dealing in. A number of years ago, you could just remove the DUP element from this motion and insert Sinn Féin. The whole thing is a manifestation of how bad things are in Northern Ireland, where a pro-union party is pulling down its own government, making Northern Ireland fail quicker than what it was when the executive and the assembly was up and running. So I'm going to refrain from the who, but, where, what, why, when with Sinn Féin and DUP. I think the whole debate has articulated that well, but primarily the implications of not having a government, not delivering for your people is wrong. Wrong in 2017, wrong today, and it's not a solution. A lot of members have mentioned core aspects of society being brutally torn apart financially and limited access to services, whether it's education, health, infrastructure, the economy, or DERA. And these all are really important. Yes, I agree with members that Stormont is not perfect. It is not the solution for everything, but it's all we have, and it's best to make that work. And the only way to do that is to get in and deliver and govern your people within Northern Ireland, and then fight out your differences in the chamber. Let majority have a say, and that's not happening now. And I'm deeply disappointed it's not happening. And Derek Hussey, I think he threw the DUP a lifeline with that amendment, which nobody went for. But we really must get the executive up and running and start to make Northern Ireland work for everyone and not just...
Alderman, if you could just finish up, please.
Thanks very much, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I am going to go to Christopher now. Thank you.
Okay, finally, thanks, Mayor. And I didn't think we were ever going to get this point. And I just want to thank all those who spoke in support of the motion. And it's not surprising that some people didn't, and that's understandable. But just in response to some of the comments that were made, and I'm trying to keep this respectful, but when Martin McGuinness resigned from the position of Deputy First Minister, he done it on the aftermath of a huge crisis in government, where there was allegations of corruption on a massive scale, and that needed to be resolved. There needed to be a space to resolve that and to regain that confidence in government. We went without a government for 3 years because the DUP were being led by somebody who stands on top of William and his ilk. And unfortunately, we're in the same position as we are now. And I, in my opening comments, I referred to the huge wealth of talent that we've got right across the political spectrum that have been elected to serve in the Assembly. And there's a lot of members within the DUP that would fall within that category who I have no doubt are keen to work day in, day out to try and address the problems that we're experiencing now. And they're being denied the opportunity to do that. And the DUP should have more confidence in themselves rather than listening to unelected people that are standing in street corners shouting. So that's essentially that's what we're calling for, and just asking for leadership When we referred to the funding challenges and issues with the Barna formula, 100% agree. If you use Wales as an example, where Wales were able to make the argument that funding should be allocated on a needs-based basis, they didn't need to split the dummy out and refuse to go to work. They achieved that and they make that argument. That argument can be made by working together. And I agree, and I've stated it in my original points, is that the executive and the assembly isn't the panacea, but it is a pathway and it is a mechanism to generate further and better changes for us all. So I just want to thank all those who supported the motion, and I would again urge those that didn't to look towards a brighter future for us all, because we need government to work.
Sorry, thank you, Christopher. Just want to I think there is a few dissenting voices on this motion, so we can either go through the roll or indicate if the people who are against or abstaining.
Against.
Against, Mayor, Alderman Jackson, or Alderman Kerrigan and Alderman Breslin.
So if I may, Mayor, just run down the first few.
Yeah, go ahead.
Alderman Breslin.
Against.
Against. Alderman Cook.
Against.
Alderman Hussey.
Abstain.
Alderman Kerrigan.
Against, John.
Alderman McCready.
Abstain.
Is that abstain? Yes. Alderman McMorris.
Yes.
Alderman Middleton.
Against, John?
Is it the case that everyone else is for?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Members, I am aware we have run 20 minutes over our time. However, we only have a few more items, which I think should be very quick. And instead of coming back tomorrow, should we just go through them now? Would that be okay? Right. Okay, so it's items for information and its responses to motions, pages 117 to 148. No comment? No. The resolution from all our councils, page 149 to 152.
Mayor.
Sorry. Sir
Yeah,
Harkin?
look, there's a proposal in there calling, asking the council to support a motion calling on the Minister for the North to support voting rights for 16-year-olds. We as a council have already backed that. I think we should support the motion. And hopefully the majority of people here agree.
Yeah, I think that's our position anyway. Yeah, councillor, so. Okay, the ceiling list, page 153.
Unanimous, yeah.
Yes, that was unanimous. I think that was our position anyway, John, that we brought that on anyway. So, yeah. The ceiling list 153 to 158. And item 17, any other relevant items? No. Good night.
Thank you, man.